Sawmazeofshadows. The Awakening. The protagonist awakens in a world of darkness, the air thick with the stench of rust and decay. Their eyes, clouded with confusion, slowly adjust to the dim light, revealing a room that embodies every human's primal fear. The walls, lined with tools, each carry a story of horror, their purpose as sinister as the shadows they cast. The flickering light bulb above dances with the darkness, creating an illusion of movement, as if the room itself were alive. The protagonist's heart pounds, each beat a loud echo in this chamber of despair. The cold, hard floor offers no comfort, and the chains that bind them rattle with a metallic cry, a stark reminder of their captivity. Questions flood their mind. How did they get here? Why? The taste of fear is palpable, and in this moment, they understand the true meaning of helplessness. The room feels like a living entity, watching, waiting. As their eyes explore their surroundings, they realize this is just the beginning of a nightmare from which there might be no awakening. The first clue. With hesitant movements, the protagonist reaches for the blood-stained envelope, its surface marred with the echoes of previous victims. Play or perish, the words, written in a menacing scrawl, send a shiver down their spine. Inside, the envelope conceals a riddle, each word a sinister whisper from the past, promising a twisted version of freedom. The riddle speaks in cryptic tones, a puzzle devised by a mind obsessed with the macabre. As they decipher the words, the room seems to close in, the air grows heavier, filled with the unspoken screams of those who failed before. This game, set by an unseen puppet master, plays with life and death, a gamble where the stakes are the highest. The protagonist feels a surge of adrenaline, their mind racing to solve the puzzle. Each second feels like an eternity, the tick of the clock a relentless reminder that time is the enemy. The riddle is a key, a chance to move forward, to escape this chamber of horrors. But with each moment, the weight of their situation grows heavier. This is no mere game, but a fight for survival. The Corridor of Whispers. Stepping into the corridor, a sense of unease immediately washes over the protagonist. The narrow passage stretches ahead, its end lost in shadows. The air is thick with whispers, voices that seem to come from the walls themselves, an unseen audience bearing witness to this twisted journey. Each whisper carries a tone of malice, a soft but clear message of doom. The floorboards creak underfoot, as if lamenting each step taken. Shadows cast by the flickering lights seem to move of their own accord, creating fleeting images of horrors just out of sight. The protagonist's heart races, their breaths quick and shallow. Each sound, each whisper, heightens the sense of dread. The corridor feels alive, a snake waiting to strike. The walls themselves appear to breathe, a slow, ominous rhythm that echoes the protagonist's own heartbeat. There's a feeling of being watched, of eyes lurking just beyond the veil of darkness. The corridor is not just a path, but a test of nerve, a journey through a world where fear reigns supreme. The Room of Mirrors. The door creaks open to reveal a room of mirrors, a hall of distorted realities. The protagonist steps inside, their reflection fractured in 1,000 grotesque ways. Each mirror tells a different story, a twisted version of their own image. The room spins a tale of horror, where each reflection seems to stare back with accusing eyes, whispering silent judgments. The mirrors are not just glass but windows into a world where the familiar becomes nightmarish. The protagonist's movements are echoed by their myriad reflections, a dance with their own distorted selves. The air is thick with the scent of old, unmoving dust, and a coldness that seems to seep from the mirrors themselves. Hidden within this labyrinth of reflections is a door, a portal to the next chapter of this nightmare. But it remains unseen, its location a secret held by the riddles whispered by the glass. Solving this puzzle requires more than wit. It demands confronting the distorted reflections of the soul. Each step, each turn, brings a new wave of disorientation. In this room, the protagonist faces not just a physical maze, but a psychological one. The reflections do not just warp their appearance, but seem to twist their very thoughts and memories. Doubt creeps in with every reflected gaze, challenging their sense of self. Are these mirrors showing the truth, or a lie? The air feels heavy with unspoken words, as if the mirrors are about to shatter and spill their secrets. With each solved riddle, a piece of the protagonist's past comes into focus, a painful memory twisted and magnified by the glass. The realization dawns that escaping this room is not just about finding the hidden door, but also about facing the fragmented parts of themselves that they have long tried to avoid. The Room of Mirrors is a cruel reflection of their inner turmoil, a place where escape means confronting the demons that lurk within the depths of their own mind. The Scream in the Dark. Darkness envelops the protagonist as they enter the next room, a void where sight is useless and fear becomes tangible. The blackness is oppressive, a heavy blanket that smothers every sense. The silence is profound, unnerving in its totality, until a scream shatters it, a sound so filled with terror that it chills to the bone. The protagonist freezes, their heart hammering in their chest, as the scream echoes around them, bouncing off unseen walls. It's impossible to tell if the scream is theirs or someone else's, a victim lost in this endless night. The air moves, a gentle brush against skin, a whisper of something unseen passing by. The protagonist's mind races, every horror story they've ever heard filling their thoughts, each more terrifying in this absolute darkness. The fear of the unknown is overwhelming, the imagination conjuring monsters in every shadow. The darkness is a predator, and they are its prey. Every sound is amplified, every breath a roar in the silent black. The protagonist moves slowly, hands outstretched, feeling their way through the darkness, knowing that something might be waiting just beyond their reach. This is not just a room, but a test of sanity, where the mind can play tricks, turning shadows into monsters and fear into reality. The protagonist must find the strength to push forward, to navigate through this ocean of darkness, where the only guide is their own faltering courage. The Gallery of the Lost. As the protagonist enters the Gallery of the Lost, they are immediately confronted with a chilling sight. The walls are adorned with portraits, each depicting a previous victim of this twisted game. The eyes in the portraits seem alive, filled with an eternal terror that pierces the soul. These were people once filled with hopes and dreams, now reduced to haunting reminders of failure and despair. The air in the gallery is heavy with the weight of their untold stories, each canvas a silent testament to a life cut short by this cruel game. The protagonist feels a deep, unsettling connection to these lost souls, their eyes following every movement, whispering warnings and pleas from beyond. This gallery is more than a collection of portraits, it's a mausoleum of broken spirits. The realization hits hard. This game has claimed many lives, each portrait a stark reminder of the high stakes. The protagonist moves through the gallery, the eyes of the lost bearing witness to their journey, a haunting chorus of the fallen. Each step forward is a step deeper into the heart of darkness, where the line between life and death is as thin as the canvas on these walls. The Pit of Despair. The protagonist stands at the edge of the Pit of Despair, a gaping chasm in the floor that reeks of death and decay. The pit is a macabre garden of sharp objects, spikes, blades, and remnants of those who dared to descend before. Somewhere in the depths lies the key to their salvation, a glimmer of hope in a sea of agony. The choice is a cruel one. Enter the pit and risk life and limb, or remain trapped in this labyrinth of horror. As the protagonist peers into the abyss, they can see the faint glimmer of the key, tantalizingly out of reach. The air is thick with the stench of blood and rust, a reminder of the pain that awaits below. The pit is not just a physical challenge, but a mental one, testing the limits of fear and desperation. Every instinct screams to turn away, but the key is the only path forward. With a deep breath, the protagonist prepares to descend into the pit, each step a dance with death. This is the ultimate test of survival, a journey into the very heart of darkness, where every moment is a battle against fear itself. The Whispering Walls. The whispering walls close in on the protagonist, a claustrophobic corridor where the walls seem to speak. The whispers are incessant, a cacophony of voices that blend truth and lies. The voices speak of the protagonist's past, dredging up memories long buried and best forgotten. Guilt, fear, and regret weave through the whispers, each word a needle pricking at the mind. The protagonist feels their sanity teetering on the edge as the whispers grow louder, more insistent. The corridor becomes a psychological gauntlet, each step forward a battle against the voices that seek to unravel their mind. The air is thick with the weight of unspoken secrets, the walls closing in like a vice. The protagonist struggles to focus, to separate reality from the tormenting chorus. Each whisper is a ghost from the past, a reminder of moments of weakness, of choices made and paths not taken. This corridor is more than a passage. It's a journey through the darkest corners of the protagonist's own psyche, where the greatest challenge is not to escape, but to endure. The shadows prey. In the room where shadows come to life, the protagonist finds themselves in a world where reality warps and bends. The shadows in the room start to morph, forming hands and faces that reach out with a chilling intent. It's as if the darkness itself has taken on a life of its own, hungry and relentless. The protagonist watches in horror as these shadowy appendages stretch towards them, each movement accompanied by a low, menacing growl. The air grows colder, the atmosphere thick with a sense of impending doom. Every instinct screams to run, but there's nowhere to hide from the darkness that fills their room. The protagonist feels an overwhelming sense of being hunted, as if the shadows are alive with malevolent purpose. Each shadowy figure seems to whisper promises of pain and despair, their ghostly fingers just inches away. The room becomes a nightmarish dance, a desperate struggle to avoid the grasping shadows. The protagonist realizes that these shadows are not just physical threats, but manifestations of their deepest fears, each one a dark reflection of their own inner demons. The fight against these shadows is more than a battle for survival, it's a fight against the very essence of fear, a confrontation with the darkness that resides within. The hallucinatory room. Upon entering the hallucinatory room, reality itself seems to fracture. The walls, floor, and ceiling twist and turn in impossible ways, creating a disorienting kaleidoscope of horror. The protagonist's senses are assaulted by a barrage of hallucinations that blur the line between reality and nightmare. Visions of grotesque creatures and twisted landscapes flash before their eyes, each more terrifying than the last. The air is filled with a chorus of whispers, screams, and unsettling laughter, a soundtrack to the madness that unfolds around them. The protagonist feels a growing sense of panic as they struggle to discern what is real. Each step forward is a step into the unknown, a journey through a mind-bending maze of terror. The hallucinations are not just visual but visceral, playing on the protagonist's deepest fears and insecurities. Images of lost loved ones, past failures, and unspoken regrets intertwine with the surreal landscape, creating a nightmarish world where nothing is as it seems. The protagonist realizes that this room is a test of their sanity, a challenge to hold onto reality in a place where even the ground beneath their feet cannot be trusted. As they navigate this hallucinatory hell, the line between reality and illusion becomes increasingly blurred, and the protagonist is left to wonder if they will ever find their way back to the world they once knew. The forgotten child. In a room shrouded in half-light, a ghostly figure of a child appears, its eyes pools of deep sorrow. This apparition, so innocent yet so out of place in this house of horrors, beckons the protagonist forward with a silent gesture. As they approach, the child's image flickers like a candle in the wind, its form barely holding together. The air is thick with a melancholic chill, and a sense of profound loss permeates the room. The child leads the protagonist towards a hidden passage, a secret gateway veiled in the shadows. Yet, as they reach out to the child, it dissipates into thin air, leaving behind a cold void. The protagonist is left alone, with the echo of the child's presence lingering like a whispered lullaby. This encounter leaves them shaken, the child's image etched into their memory, a symbol of innocence lost within these walls. The hidden passage, now revealed, promises a new path forward, yet the haunting image of the child lingers, a reminder of the purity and hope that once was, now corrupted by the darkness of this twisted game. The blood-soaked feast. The protagonist enters a grand dining hall, its opulence a stark contrast to the decay elsewhere. The table is set with a macabre feast, each dish more repulsive than the last, a banquet of horror. The sight is stomach-turning, but within this grotesque display lies the key to their next challenge. Each dish, a twisted puzzle, each bite, a test of will. The air is heavy with the metallic scent of blood, mixed with the decay of forgotten meals. The protagonist realizes they must partake in this blood-soaked feast to uncover the clues hidden within. With each hesitant taste, they unravel another piece of the sickening puzzle laid out before them. This room is more than a challenge of the stomach, it's a test of mental fortitude, a grotesque game played with the senses. The feast is not just food but a collection of fears and revulsions, each dish a manifestation of the darkest corners of the human psyche. As the protagonist moves through the feast, they are forced to confront not only the physical repulsion but the psychological terror that this banquet represents, a feast that feeds on fear and despair. The echoing screams. The protagonist finds themselves in a chamber where every sound is amplified to an unbearable volume. The room is a geometric enigma, designed to distort and magnify sound. Here, the protagonist's own screams become a haunting echo, bouncing off the walls, creating a cacophony of terror. The chamber is filled with invisible traps, each step a potential plunge into agony. The echoes serve as a disorienting chorus, masking the real dangers that lurk within. The protagonist's heartbeat thunders in their ears, mixed with the echoes of their own panicked breaths. The sound becomes a tangible force, a relentless assault on the senses. This room is a cruel symphony, each scream a note in a melody of fear. The protagonist realizes that their own voice, their cries of fear and pain, are being used against them, a psychological weapon that turns their instinctual reactions into a chorus of torment. Navigating this chamber requires more than courage. It requires the protagonist to suppress their most primal instincts, to remain silent in the face of fear, as they tread carefully through a minefield of unseen terrors. The Faceless Watcher. In a room dimly lit by flickering candles, the protagonist becomes aware of a chilling presence, the Faceless Watcher. This shadowy figure stands at the periphery of their vision, a silent observer to the unfolding horror. Its form is indistinct, shrouded in darkness, its face never fully revealed. Yet, its presence is overwhelmingly menacing, a constant reminder that they are never truly alone in this labyrinth of terror. The protagonist feels the Watcher's gaze, cold and unyielding, following their every move. The air around them grows colder with each step, as if the Watcher's gaze brings a chill from some otherworldly realm. This silent sentinel offers no clues, no assistance, merely observing with an air of detached curiosity. The protagonist wrestles with questions. Who is this Watcher? What role do they play in this macabre game? The sense of being constantly observed heightens the tension, creating an oppressive atmosphere where the protagonist feels like prey under the scrutiny of an unseen predator. The room itself seems to respond to the Watcher's presence, shadows stretching and contorting as if alive. The protagonist realizes that the Faceless Watcher is more than a mere spectator. They are a symbol of the protagonist's own vulnerability, a manifestation of the feeling of being perpetually hunted, judged, and never alone. The final test. The protagonist enters the final room, a chamber that feels like the heart of this maze of shadows. Here, they are faced with a horrifying choice, the ultimate test in this relentless game of survival. The room is a kaleidoscope of their journey, adorned with reminders of the trials they have endured, each artifact a memory of the pain and fear they've overcome. The air is thick with the anticipation of a climax, the culmination of this harrowing odyssey. The choice presented to the protagonist is a moral quandary, a decision that cuts to the core of their being. It's a test of character, a question of how far they are willing to go to save themselves. The weight of the decision is crushing, the consequences far-reaching and profound. The room pulses with a palpable tension, every second ticking by is a reminder of the gravity of their choice. This final test is the crux of the protagonist's journey, a moment that will define their fate. Will they sacrifice their morals for survival, or will they hold on to their humanity in the face of certain doom? The protagonist grapples with this dilemma, knowing that whatever choice they make, it will haunt them forever. This is not just a physical challenge, but an existential one, a battle for the soul fought in the depths of despair and darkness. For more videos like these, please like, share and subscribe, and please